Welcome to New York YouTube Bloods. This one is on Taxstone and Troy Ave, Irving Plaza shooting. Federal court documents shows NYPD officer detailing the events of the night of TI show. Taxstone was one of the first hip-hop podcasters that spoke his feelings, which most people did not like, one of them being Troy Ave.
Shit get me I don't like that shit, man, and that's why I keep telling y'all bully bullies, and that's why I started bullying Troy Ave, you know what I mean?
Taxstone have previous mentioned he was bullying Troy Ave for 5 years because Troy Ave was a bully to others. At one time Troy Ave dissed a Joey badass associate, capital Steez WHO jumped off a Manhattan roof. Here's what Troy Ave said. "Don't get suicidal like your friend, here's a casket, Steez burning in hell, my burner on my belt." Taxstone expressed his feelings saying Troy Ave I Sentino gangsta, and the night at Irving Plaza Troy Ave and his crew approached Taxstone and things got out of control. Check out the documents. Count 1, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. 1. On or about May 25, 2016, in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Daryl Campbell, aka Taxstone, the defendant, after having been convicted in a court of a crime punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year, knowingly did possess, in and affecting commerce, a firearm, to wit, a black 9mm Kel-Tec semi-automatic handgun. Count 2. Receipt of a firearm in interstate commerce. 2. Between and or about October 2015 and on or about May 25, 2016, in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Daryl Campbell, aka Taxstone, the defendant, with the intent to commit therewith an offense punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year, and with no old and reasonable cause to believe that an offense punishable by imprisonment for a term exceeding 1 year was to be committed therewith, shipped, transported, and received a firearm in interstate and foreign commerce, to wit, Campbell received a black 9mm Kel-Tec semi-automatic handgun with the intent of committing therewith the firearms crime charged in Count 1. The basis for my knowledge and for the foregoing charges are, in part, as follows. 3. I am a detective with the NYPD's Manhattan South Homicide Squad. I have been personally involved in the investigation of this matter, and I base this affidavit on that personal experience, as well as on my conversations with other law enforcement agents and my examination of various reports and records. Because this affidavit is being submitted for the limited purpose of establishing probable cause for the offenses cited above, it does not include all the facts that I have learned during the course of the investigation. Where the contents of conversations of others are reported herein, they are reported in substance and in part. 4. I have reviewed records concerning the criminal history of Daryl Campbell, aka Taxstone, the defendant. From these records I have learned that on or about February 14, 2008, in Kings County Supreme Court, Campbell pled guilty to attempted robbery in the second degree, a felony punishable by more than 1 year imprisonment. Accordingly, following that conviction and at all times relevant to this complaint, Campbell was prohibited from possessing a firearm. 5. From my review of publicly available media generated by or containing recordings of Daryl Campbell, aka Taxstone, the defendant, I have learned, in substance and in part, that Campbell is a commentator on music and other matters, who, among other things, regularly releases a commercially available podcast and appears in interviews. In his public statements, Campbell has proclaimed his membership in the Bloods, a violent street gang, and his willingness to use violence and firearms.
You were affiliated with the Bloods?
Yeah.
Okay. What age were you when you got affiliated with them?
Around 14, 15, and like in New York City, it was like you can't be a Blood until you was 16 and shit like that. But like it was like dudes.
Wait, so you couldn't be a Blood until you were 16?
Yeah,
in
that
New
was
York?
the rules in New York
Okay.
City. Like you had to be 16 and up in order to be a Blood. But like I just, I put on a red flag.
In his public statements, Campbell had on multiple occasions prior to May 25, 2016 insulted an individual in the music industry, Troy Ave, by stating, among other things, that Troy Ave's music is of a poor quality, that Troy Ave is cowardly and unwilling to use violence, and that Troy Ave attempted to manufacture a reputation for both musical and criminal accomplishments that was inflated or false. In one public statement Campbell made prior to May 25, 2016, Campbell identified Ronald Collins by Troy Ave, his stage name, and proclaimed his willingness to open fire if a group of men were to approach him, repeatedly saying, "Try me." Specifically, Campbell stated, in substance and in part, "I can protect myself as a man, so I'm not thinking about rolling with 6 goons. That's why I be telling people you failed before you even think you won with me. Because you thinking you walking up with 6 dudes is gonna do something to me. When I see you walking up with 6 dudes. Bang ba 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 ba, making sound of gun rapidly firing. I ain't with it, I ain't with all that 6 dudes walking up trying to have a conversation with me about nothing. That's why I be laughing at rappers. Rappers, I don't care about you. I'ma tell you, try me. I want the rappers to try me. I do. I ain't gonna lie. I want y'all to try me. Try me. Your shooter, the tough nigga in your squad that just came home. Tell him try me. I want to embarrass somebody. And that's why I started bullying Troy Ave, you know what I mean? I have reviewed video recordings, law enforcement reports, and medical reports, and spoken with eyewitnesses concerning a fatal shooting that occurred on or about the night of May 25, 2016 in the vicinity of 17 Irving Plaza, New York, from which I have learned, in substance and in part. The shooting began in a room within a commercial venue, Irving Plaza, used for musical performances. At or near the time of the shooting, there was a physical struggle inside the room, which was filled with a crowd of people present for a scheduled musical performance. 4 shots were fired inside the room.
Yeah, I'd rather do that. Real shit.
Yeah.
I'd rather be a woman because I can protect myself as a man. So I'm not thinking about rolling with 6 goons and all that shit. That's how I be telling people. You failed before you even think you won with me. Because you thinking you walking up with 6 dudes is going to do something to me. When I see you walking up with 6 dudes, bang, 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 bang.
It's Damian Jr. going Marley off in this bitch.
Now he just
I'm gonna bogle your ass. I'm gonna bogle your ass because I ain't with it. I ain't with all that 6 dudes walking up trying to have a conversation with me about nothing. Niggas be having big, black, ugly niggas. I be like, they really think, no, that's for niggas that's pussy. They see motherfuckers walking up and they be like, and let them walk up. Like, oh, I peep motherfuckers, but nigga, I peep you, I'm letting you know. I'm gonna look right at you. What's up? You good? Before you get up on me. Are you good? Let me know now. Before you even walk in this square, because we not doing that. That's why I be laughing at rappers. Rappers, I don't care about y'all. I'm gonna tell you, try me. I want the rappers to try me. I do. I ain't gonna lie. I want y'all to try me. Try me. Your shooter, the tough nigga in your squad that just came home. Tell him try me. I want to embarrass somebody. I do. I want to embarrass somebody. I do. I want to embarrass a nigga with muscles.
But like, why?
Because I hate these motherfuckers. Because you know why? They just snatched Slim Jesus' mic on stage.
1 shot struck Ronald McFatter, aka BSB Banga, in the chest, at close range, killing McFatter. 1 shot struck Troy Ave in both legs, wounding Troy Ave. 1 shot struck an uninvolved bystander, wounding that individual in the leg. May no girlfriend at the time. 1 shot passed through the floor of the room and struck a second uninvolved bystander, who was on the lower level of the venue, wounding that individual in the stomach. I have reviewed video recordings made at the venue on the night of the shooting, showing an individual I believe to be Daryl Campbell, aka Taxstone, the defendant, entering the room prior to the shooting, and leaving the room immediately after the shooting. I have reviewed reports produced by an NYPD firearms expert showing that all 4 shots fired in the room were fired from a black 9mm Kel-Tec semi-automatic handgun, the firearm that was subsequently recovered by, and is currently in the possession of, the NYPD. I have reviewed a report concerning the firearm prepared by a special agent of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. From this report I have learned that the firearm was manufactured outside the state of New York, and that the firearm was lawfully purchased in Florida by the firearm's original owner, the owner. I have spoken with the owner, who confirmed that the owner originally purchased the firearm in Florida. The owner further stated, in substance and in part, that the owner left the firearm with another person, individual 2, who later told the owner that individual 2 had brought the firearm to New York in or about October 2015. I know from my review of social media, including photographs depicting the two together, among other evidence, that individual 2 is an associate of Daryl Campbell, aka Taxstone, the defendant. Have reviewed reports produced by the New York City Office of Chief Medical Examiner. From those reports I have learned, in substance and in part, that DNA found on the firearm connects the firearm to Daryl Campbell, aka Taxstone, the defendant. Specifically, DNA found on the trigger and trigger guard of the firearm contained a mixture of DNA, and it is 8.8 billion times more probable that this DNA came from Campbell and 2 other people, rather than 3 people not including Campbell. DNA found on the hand grip of the firearm contained a mixture of DNA, and it is 112 billion times more probable that this DNA came from Campbell and 2 other people, rather than 3 people not including Campbell. DNA found on the base edges of the magazine of the firearm contained a mixture of DNA, and it is 2.28 billion times more probable that this DNA came from Campbell and 2 other people, rather than 3 people not including Campbell. DNA recovered from the firearm also indicates that McFadder, who, as discussed above, was fatally shot during the shooting, and Troy Ave, who, as discussed above, was shot and wounded during the shooting touched or handled the firearm prior to its recovery by the NYPD. Specifically, DNA found on the edges of the firearms slide contained a mixture of DNA including DNA from both McFadder and Troy Ave. The mixture of DNA found on the trigger and trigger guard of the firearm is 5,760 times more probable too. The magazine of a semi-automatic handgun such as the firearm is a detachable portion of the weapon into which bullets to be fired from the weapon are loaded. The slide of a semi-automatic handgun such as the firearm is the top portion of the weapon, which moves backward then forward, slides, when the weapon is fired. Now here's a video of the night, shot rang out. You can hear a woman screaming, "My leg! My leg!" Taxstone is seen running and ducking for cover holding on a guy with a green shirt. As you all know, Taxstone was currently sentenced to 10 years in federal custody for the firearm. The New York State murder trial recently started picking jurors. If you knew better, you'll do better. Go hit the like button, and subscribe to New York YouTube. Bloods, peace and blessings.